Us, how you doing? Analog Attack here. Happy to be back, and today I'm really happy. I've got a special guest joining me, the one and only Mr. Chris Corry. How you doing, Chris?
Great, lovely to be here.
Thanks for being here, man. And before we start today's topic, I want to talk a little bit about this. Surely one of the best records of last year, right?
I mean, if you say so, thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing. So how's things going with the band now? What's going on?
Can't do anything, man. This country is completely fucked. Yeah, man. We had some shows for this year. We canceled them. Like, we did a bunch of writing maybe like 6 months ago, just me and a couple of the guys, like, bouncing ideas back and forth. But so maybe there'll be a new album whenever we can get together and practice again. But I haven't even seen the boys in like 8 months.
Really, man?
Yeah.
But I'm telling everybody who's watching, if you haven't checked out this record from last year, Magic Circle, Departed Souls, check it out.
Much obliged.
It's amazing. Looking forward to the next one.
Thank you, sir.
So, what we're going to talk about, Blue Öyster Cult, Chris.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah,
the top five, huh?
Yeah, surely one of the best American bands of all time.
Yeah, definitely. Right up there with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, big three of America.
American bands, yeah. So when did you first get into them? Like, what was the first record you bought?
Dude, well, my mom liked the Blue Öyster Cult when I was a kid.
Nice.
And so that kind of made me averse to it for a while. Like, I really didn't pick them up until maybe I was like 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I got Fire of Unknown Origin and Cultösaurus Erectus first because Martin Birch produced them, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And then from there it just snowballed, and now, you know, I have a 1982
nice
t-shirt. Yeah.
My Napalm Death t-shirt on.
Very nice. Very nice. I like that you're keeping your repping your country there.
Yeah. Almost like a Barney haircut too.
Yeah, you're looking very Barney-esque right now.
Right.
Did you ever see them with Lee?
Hmm?
You saw them with Lee, right?
Yeah. A few times. I guess the best times were SOB first tour.
That's a good one to see.
Napalm Death, SOB, Dogs and the Crippins, both through.
Yeah, I'd go to that show.
I did. It was pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, I saw them a bunch of times. What was I going to say? Yeah, for me it was weird.
When did you hear the BOC first?
Well, that's the thing. It was one of those things, 11, probably 12 years old. A bunch of us at school were into sort of metal, but I was the only one who liked them. None of my friends sort of understood them. They sort of clicked with me straight away, really. I don't know. But it's kind of a weird band when you're 12, 13. It's, I don't know, there's a lot going on there.
What was the first record you heard by him? Do you remember?
Well, I'm going to show that when we get to the 5.
Love it.
Yeah. So shall we dive into the 5?
Yeah. Who goes first? Do I go first?
You, my man. Yeah.
Okay.
Show us your number 5.
All right. So I made a pretty tight 5, but then I wanted to represent at least one record that I feel that I'm guessing probably doesn't get a lot of love from the fans that I love.
Right.
So for number 5, I'm going with Mirrors.
Cool.
This is a Tom Werman production. He produced 3 Cheap Trick records in a row. He did In Color, he did Heaven Tonight, and then he did Dream Police. Same year as Mirrors, he did Dream Police.
I did not know that. I love those 3 Cheap Trick records though.
Right? And now when you think about it, you can hear it's a similar drum sound. It's got, you know, similar kind of like ornate production touches.
Right.
Some people think it's too polished, but you know, you got some really like cool raging songs. You know, you got like The Vigil, which is one of Buck's Alien songs. Then you got I Am the Storm, which is Joe wrote originally, I think. And then you also have like kind of some weird, moody, piano-driven ones like Moon Crazy, which I like a lot. Yeah, I don't know. It's an underappreciated record, and you know, they kind of like hit some hard times based on this record not selling. But I think it's due for reevaluation.
I'm reevaluating it now. You know, I've got it over there. That another one. I'm digging deep into it. That's what those two. That's like a never say die for me. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
I never got into it back in the day, but now I'm going to try and sort of dive deeper into that record because
it's a little jarring at first, but once you get past, like, the first song kind of almost sounds like Kiss or something like that.
Right.
But once you like get into the album, I think there's a lot there. And they still play songs off that record live too. I've seen them play The Vigil a bunch of times. And I think that's really cool that they do that for fans.
I was going to ask you, how many times have you seen them? Because I've never seen them.
So since they're based in New York, they play the East Coast kind of a lot. And I now, because Eric is 73 and Buck is 71, I think.
Right.
I just go whenever I can see him. And I'm really pissed actually. They played a drive-in show in New Hampshire like 3 weeks ago, and I didn't know. And I would have dropped everything to go to that. Just why the fuck not? But I saw him 3 times last year, including one time in Long Island, and it was a lot of Blue Öyster Cult lifers there. Like a lot of people that were like their age that had been, you know, were wearing shirts that were like 40 years old. Tour
I'd
shirts.
love to see him. It's not going to happen. They're not going to come to Japan now, are they?
Well, they might, because I think they're playing some shows again already. They're booked for 2021, and they have a new album coming out. So it's possible you might get a shot, my man.
Cool. Something to look forward to. Hopefully
the world don't end.
All right, I want to go with my number 5. I think my
go.
choices might be a little bit predictable, so forgive me a little bit. So from the black and white era.
Ooh, yeah.
Tyranny and Mutation. I don't know, man. This is a bit of a sort of one-sided record for me.
Side A. Which side is it going to be?
A.
Whoa. All
right. Yeah.
Well, you'll see what I have coming up soon.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know, man. Just 4 classic songs in a row on side A. Sandy Pearlman production. What else? 1973, and there's a Patti Smith wrote some lyrics for.
She wrote "Baby Ice Dog," I think.
That's it. Yeah, that's right. She wrote the lyrics.
And that's her first contribution to the band.
Yeah, that's an interesting kind of thing too, the Patti Smith connection. But yeah, this wasn't the first record that I bought by them, but I think it's the weakest of the first 3. Yeah, that's my number 5.
All right, number 4.
Great cover art. I'd like a T-shirt of that.
I've seen it. Here's my number 4.
Oh man, what?
And this is the quadraphonic pressing, actually.
Damn.
All right, so I think it's funny you said this is kind of a one-sided record for you, because I really like the B-side, and it's got kind of like a cool Doors kind of feel to it.
That's interesting. You mentioned the Doors. We'll get to that later on.
And so like my favorite song on this record is Wings Wetted Down, and I think that's like almost like a doom metal kind of proto doom metal song, if you will, because it's real gloomy and it's all black. It's kind of, you know, quasi satanic. There's a lot of satanic stuff on this record because there's a lot of Sandy Pearlman influence, and that's what he was into at the time. But I love the kind of like Teen Archer and Mistress of the Salmon Salts. Like they just almost have like a Strange Days vibe, but it's more of like an East Coast, like Manhattan kind of Strange Days. So I really dig that. And I should note that Seven Screamin' Dizbusters is Wino from The Obsessed and St. Vitus's favorite Blue Öyster Cult song. So I'm told. I don't, you know, I can't cite press or, you know.
You have all the deep knowledge, man.
I don't have the paperwork. But that's what I've heard.
Got like a bit of a My War situation going on there. A side A and side B.
Yeah, maybe so.
I'm a side A guy. You're a side B guy.
I'm a side B guy. All right. right, what have you got for number 4, man?
Well, first LP.
I mean, you can't go wrong with it.
This is the first Blue Öyster Cult record that I bought and heard, and I was kind of obsessed with it for a couple of years when I was a teenager. I mean,
so that was one you were playing when you were young.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I've got a good memory, but I get the timeline mixed up a little bit. I was probably like 16, 17, something like that when I bought this record. But surely then came The Last Days of May. Buck was one of its finest.
It's a centerpiece for sure.
Right?
Yeah. I think it's interesting that you liked it so much as a kid because it's very 60s. It's the most 60s sounding. A lot of Grateful Dead influence.
Right, exactly. But I mean, I had no clue about 60s music. I mean, I'd just gone from kind of like Motorhead, AC/DC, Deep Purple, GBH, Crash Discharge, Oyster Cult.
All the greats.
I had no clue about like psychedelia or 60s music. Maybe a little bit of Jimi Hendrix. That's probably about it. But,
yeah, okay.
Yeah. But that Transmaniacon MC is real, like, biker, like, just...
Yes.
Like, yeah. It's about Altamont, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also about... I think it's supposed to be, like, kind of a twist on the Necronomicon. That's why it's the Transmaniacon. You know, and then a motorcycle club that's, like, based on that or something. You know, they never really tell you what the songs are about.
Right.
But I think that's a Sandy Pearlman one as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah.
My favorite song, Stairway to the Stars on that one.
That's a great song.
That's just like a really cool, like, it sounds very Hollywood, even though, you know, it was probably written in Long Island.
Crazy production. Who produced this, Chris?
I think so. Sandy Pearlman and Murray Krugman
That's right. Would
be the producers on it. I'm not sure who the engineer is, but it might have just been a house guy from CBS.
David Lucas and Bill Robertson. It says so on the back.
They had been rejected for a record contract a couple times, and they had to do an audition in like a boardroom to get signed to Columbia for that. So they set up like the full thing, and it's just like one guy at a table like this, and they got signed. And the label was looking for an American Black Sabbath. And that's why they got signed. They were like, well, maybe we can do that. We'll do anything for a record contract.
Oh, are we going to touch on the Black and Blue tour later? I don't know. That's.
We can definitely talk about it, yeah.
I mean, you can tell me more about it than I can, probably. So.
Well,
let's get to your next choice.
My next choice is Fire of Unknown Origin, which... This is probably as close as I'm going to intersect with the Black and Blue tour, so we can talk about it here. So this is produced by Martin Birch in 1981.
Yes.
Which, to me, the best production year for Martin Birch, because you get Killers, you get Fire of Unknown Origin, you get Mob Rules. Those are like the 3 best sounding records by the 3 coolest bands. And this is just... There's like different phases of the BOC for me. There's the black and white era. Then there's kind of like the more progressive songwriter driven era of the late 70s. And then you have sort of like the commercial hard rock era.
Right.
And that starts with Cultosaurus, which is what they were touring on when they did the Black and Blue tour. That's a Birch production. That's good. But this one, it's just perfect.
Cultosaurus is a kind of different sounding record though, right? Bit of a different...
It's transitional, you know. It's like they're kind of like they're throwing shit at the wall, and this one, it's very unified. It's heavy, but it's really polished, and you get, you know, Veteran of the Psychic Wars is one of my, probably in my top 3 BOC songs. Vengeance, the Pact. You also get weird songs like Don't Turn Your Back, which is an Alan Lanier track that kind of sounds like Mannheim's Steamroller. It's a really cool song.
Yeah.
And Fire of Unknown Origin, the song, which are Patti Smith lyrics, written in 76. The song, the music for it was different at that time, and you can actually, there's a demo of it with completely different music from the Agents of Fortune sessions.
Is that out there on like a CD?
It is, and if you look it up on the old YouTube, if you just search for Fire of Unknown Origin demo, it's a version with Albert Bouchard singing, and it's like almost like a country song.
Man,
But
I'm gonna check that out as soon as we're done here, man. Wow.
this is an absolutely stellar album, and you got the great cover artwork of the actual Blue Öyster Cult here. And I mean, yeah, I just can't find fault with it. The best production they ever had, for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree with that for sure. Well, bit predictable. I'm staying with the black and white
But
era.
you can't go wrong with Secret Treaties.
This is like flawless platter for me. No bad songs on it, in my opinion.
No.
Nice Japanese pressing.
I'm looking for one.
The obi makes it sound bad. If I find one, I'll buy it for you.
Much appreciated.
I mean, Chris, you're the man with all the info. What can you tell me about this record?
Well, I'm gonna save some of it for when it comes
All
up
right.
in my order. But
Okay.
you know, so you got Career of Evil. That's obviously the Patti Smith song. And,
That was a single. They released that as a single too, right?
Yes, they did. And on the single version, they had to change the line. I'd like to do it to your daughter to I'd like to do it like you oughta.
Right.
And the flip side of that was a cover of Born to Be Wild, which they play live in concert a lot. But when they play it in concert, they just play it Steppenwolf style.
Right.
The recorded cover of it is like, it's very heavy. It's very different and like kind of menacing. And it's surprising when you hear it. It's really good. And you also got, so you got like a lot of stuff on here that was Sandy Pearlman's influence again, because he was trying to get this concept album together. And so there's these things in here like there's a fake book that he invented, Origins of a World War, that's referenced in the liner notes. And you get Astronomy, Subhuman, Career of Evil, and I think ME262 were all supposed to be part of this Imaginos concept album that he kept touting. So, yeah, and then this is actually the first, well, you know, you see it here on the inner sleeve, and then you see it here on the cover, the first representation of the band. There's no photos of them on the first two records.
That's true. Yeah.
And there's only this drawing on the third record. So before that, they were considered a little bit mysterious.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, they're still mysterious. You know what I mean? It's like one of a kind band. Yeah.
Very strange guys.
Chris, can you tell me a little bit about Sandy Pearlman? Because I really don't know anything about him. Have you got any info about that guy?
Yeah, I do. And I gotta give credit where it's due. You know, we all know that the best living rock biographer is Martin Popoff. And I've learned everything.
I've got to get more of his books. I've been watching a lot of his stuff on YouTube. He's amazing.
I've learned it all from his tireless research. But Sandy Pearlman, he was kind of like a poet and like a guy on the scene in New York in the early 70s. And he was looking to produce bands. He was looking to get his poetry turned into lyrics. So he got involved with the Blue Öyster Cult guys. And he sort of, you know, he was the guy behind the guys. So he was, especially on the early albums, telling them how to dress.
Really?
He was giving them, because he wanted them to wear all leather. And if you see videos of them before like 75, they're all kind of decked out in these black leather outfits. And then later you start to see them veering away from that because they were kind of sick of him. So he was their manager from 72 until 1995.
Right.
But in those early years, he really had like a heavy influence over these dudes. You know, he was writing their lyrics. He was telling them like what topics to sing about. He was really into the occult. He was into lost civilizations and kind of like all the stuff you read about. If you remember Fate magazine, it was like a little digest size magazine. They had like aliens and Bigfoot and all that stuff in there.
Is it fair? I'm sorry. Is it fair to compare him to like Michael Moorcock with Hawkwind?
Well,
bit different.
I think like that comparison works, but I think Sandy Pearlman was a little more overbearing to the point where the Blue Öyster Cult got sick of him. And it's funny, I didn't even mention it, but Michael Moorcock, you know, obviously got involved with the BOC later on. Veteran of the Psychic Wars, you know, that's him.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, he's just like one of those kind of guys that, and I also have to say Murray Krugman doesn't get as much credit as Sandy Pearlman, but from a lot of what I've read, he was sort of like the partner in crime with Sandy, and he was steering a lot of this stuff too. I didn't talk about Agents of Fortune, but I'll give you one anecdote just because I have one.
Please, please.
So I am acquainted with a fellow named Peter Robbins, who he's thanked in Agents of Fortune, and his sister was Helen Wheels. And Helen wrote the lyrics to Tattoo Vampire, Celestial Queen, Fallen Angel, you know, a few Blue Öyster Cult songs, and she also had a band. But Peter was there hanging out with these guys and knew these guys from around town. And Peter's had a career as a UFO researcher. So in '76, they were doing Agents of Fortune, and Sandy Pearlman said, "Hey, you know about this UFO stuff. What can you tell me? I need some books. We're going to do a UFO song." So Peter says he gave him this big file of, you know, government documents and books and everything. And he says, you know, Sandy Pearlman and Murray Krugman stayed up all night, you know, probably on drugs. Went through all these books and papers and wrote down the lines. And, you know, Joe Bouchard, I think, helped him. This is what I've read elsewhere, helped him sort of put it together. And that's how they got the song ETI. But that's sort of, I think that's sort of how Sandy Pearlman operated. He would find these weird sort of niche things and then sort of like graft them onto these like kind of like standard pop rock songs, you know? So that's the dynamic as I understand it. And again, I'm just a guy in a bedroom with a BOC shirt on. I don't know shit.
No, this is great. It's good to have someone who actually knows what they're talking about. Yeah.
What number are we on?
All right, I guess I'm at my number 2. This could be a little bit controversial.
Oh wait, I didn't do my number 2. Should I go, or do you want to go?
Sorry, Chris. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Go ahead, man.
I've been talking so much.
No, it's great.
Spectres is number 2 for me.
Interesting.
Love this album. The only reason it's not number 1, and I mean no disrespect, but I can't stand going through the motions. It's a difficult song for me to get through. But every other song is just beautiful, pure gold. Obviously, Godzilla is the hit single from this.
Right.
But Golden Age of Leather is, you know, a perfect epic. Death Valley Nights is the best song that Albert ever sang. Searching for Celine is like a real good Eric Bloom type track. Fireworks is another great one. Celestial Queen. I Love the Night is just like, I mean, I listen to that song at least once a day. And Nosferatu is maybe the best Joe Bouchard song, maybe not, but it's a great Joe Bouchard song. And they look cool. They've got the lasers here on the back, which this is when they had the laser show, which was very like apparently more or less bankrupted the band because they had bought these state-of-the-art lasers from people at MIT, and they were very fragile and very hard to cool. And they were investigated by like the some federal agency to make sure that they weren't like blinding people with these like super harsh lasers that they were blasting. So that's my number 2. I love Spectres, and it's a perfect time period for the band, that late '70s sort of gloomy singer-songwriter.
That's another one that I need to spend a little bit more time with. I'll get to it. Yeah.
All right, what's your number 2, my man?
Is it controversial? I don't know, probably.
Oh, I like that you picked that, because I almost picked it, and I didn't, but I'd love to hear what you think of it.
Well, this is actually, I think, because Tommy Vance, Friday Rock Show, you know, back in the day, that was how we listened to all of our, you know, the new music under the pillow with the headphones and the little transistor radio. The funny thing was, the first song I heard from this was The Marshall Plan. Which is kind of a cheesy song, but I love it. The first time I heard it, I kind of was like, well, I've never heard anything like it before. and it kind of blew me. I still love that song. I think
it's a cool song, and it's so bizarre that it's on that album, and it's like they played it live. They played it on that tour. Which is surprising because like you said, it's a really weird song.
Yeah, I mean, I love the artwork. When you're a kid and you see that in the record store, I mean, Jesus.
Of
And
course.
a Black Blade, probably top 3. Blue Öyster Cult.
Oh wow.
I mean, yeah, love that song.
My favorite is Divine Wind.
That's cool. I like Deadline too.
Deadline's really good, and Unknown Tongue.
Yeah.
When I saw them on Long Island, they played Unknown Tongue in the encore, and I was shocked because
that's kind of deep cut.
Yes, extremely deep cut. I assume they played that for the lifers, so that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I love this record. I mean, yeah.
Produced pretty much back to back with Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell.
Yeah.
And then they hit the road, Black and Blue tour, and the boys did not get along. The two bands' crews hated each other. Yeah. So part of the issue was that there was like a 2-hour changeover between the bands because they refused to share gear. So they were constantly breaking down and setting up at the same time and getting pissed at each other. And then it's one of those situations where if you go like 2 minutes over curfew, you're fined like $1,000 a minute or something. So it did not go well. Sandy Pearlman was actually managing Black Sabbath at the time as well. I believe it was Sandy. And that's why the pair up happened. And there was a concert filmed that's...
There's a VHS of it, right? There's a video. There's a VHS, right?
That's correct. And apparently the Sabbath camp does not like how the performances came out. So they refused to have it be reissued in high def.
Do you have it?
I have a bootleg.
Oh.
I think they sound fine. It's good. Those shows are good. Both bands sound good. They both look cool. They both, that's a once in a lifetime thing. Black Sabbath, Blue Öyster Cult tour.
That was the time they both appeared on the heavy metal soundtrack too, right? Was that around the same time?
In 81, yeah. So you had the demo version of the Mob Rules, and you had Veteran of the Psychic Wars. But originally the entire heavy metal soundtrack was supposed to be Blue Öyster Cult.
What?
Yes. And okay, so we're going to backtrack for a second.
Backtrack.
Fire of Unknown Origin, most of the songs were written to be like a score and a soundtrack for heavy metal. So if you watch heavy metal and you listen to the song Vengeance, the Pact, that song is just a retelling of the story. I forget what the name of the story is, but it's the woman, she's very scantily clad. She's wearing like a red bikini and she's killing everybody with a sword. She rides on like a pterodactyl. And the song just like beat for beat tells the story of that segment in the film.
Wow.
Soul Survivor, I think, was another one of the songs written for it. Veteran of Psychic Wars obviously is in the film. Heavy Metal, Black and Silver, I think, as well. So they got about halfway through, and then I don't know what happened, but it was switched to just be, you're going to get one song on this album. Probably someone figured out they could get a whole bunch of bands to be on this album, and that's what happened.
Right. Not a great album. I was deceived as a kid by that album a little bit.
I kind of like it, man. It's got some hits.
I knew you would. All right, I guess it's your number one, right?
Numero uno.
Yeah.
Secret Treaties.
There you go.
There's the full color shot of them, and
cool.
Here we have the Dead Dogs, which is kind of a bummer. My dad is about to adopt a German Shepherd, and these are either German Shepherds or Rottweilers, but I think they're German Shepherds. Nobody knows why the dogs are dead, but it's spooky. This is the best top to bottom Blue Öyster Cult record, I think. As you said, every song is great. Subhuman is just like probably their best Doors sounding song.
Right.
But I mean, for me, the last two songs, Flaming Telepaths and Astronomy, I mean, just absolutely like the best. I don't even know what you could compare
Astronomy
those to.
is incredible. Yeah.
It's got to be their best song. It's gotta, it's just, it's so emotional, but it's so heavy, but it's like a piano driven, basically a ballad.
Right.
And the lyrics, I mean, the lyrics are nonsensical. They're Sandy Pearlman's lyrics, and they go with his Imaginos mythos, and so they're actually just telling part of the story that he had worked out for that thing.
Right.
And they, redid it later when their Imaginos album actually came out in the 80s. It's obviously not as good.
I still haven't heard that record. What should I?
It's bizarre. I would say wait till you're ready. So I don't want to digress too much, but I've been thinking about that album a lot. The deal with that record is Pearlman always wanted the band to do his concept album, and some of those songs are on the various Blue Öyster Cult records, especially the early ones. Like this, I think, has 4 or 5 songs that were a part of that Imaginos theme. So around 76, 77, he was really pushing them to do this, and they got so far as demoing some of those songs.
Right.
And then they said, actually, we just want to be a pop band and make money, and we don't want to do your weird esoteric like H.P. Lovecraft tribute album. So it got shelved, and when Albert got fired from the band after Fire of Unknown Origin came out, he spoke to Sandy and said, let's just do Imaginos as an Albert Bouchard project. So they record about 90 minutes of music with Albert singing and playing guitar, not playing drums, which is kind of weird. The label had given them a big advance for it. And the stuff they produced, it's cool. It's very, very 80s AOR. And the vocal takes don't sound finished to me. Maybe they were finished, but Albert's voice can't really carry a whole album of that kind. It's very, if you've ever heard the mid 80s Blue Öyster Cult stuff, it's got that kind of like very slick keyboard heavy production, kind of influenced by like Journey or something. So they make this whole album, the label rejects it, it gets shelved, and then Sandy Pearlman sort of like calls in every last favor he still has and gets Eric Bloom and Buck Dharma to redo the vocals on it. Gets like a couple of bass line additions from Joe Bouchard and a little bit of keyboard from Alan Lanier. And it gets released as a Blue Öyster Cult album, even though they're barely a part of it. And it's got a bunch of weird guest musicians, like Robbie Krieger is on it from The Doors. Joe Satriani plays a lot of the solos. And it's a concept album, but the label didn't like the order of the songs, so they mix up the order of the songs. It's fucked up, but it's interesting.
I'll get to it. One of these
Definitely days. Listen to Secret Treaties a lot more before you get to it, because this is the number one.
Yeah. That's a good choice for number one.
All right.
So
Finish it up here. Bring us home.
Here we go. I think it's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
See, I thought one of us would pick Agents of Fortune. I thought you would have Agents of Fortune, really? So I didn't pick it.
Okay.
But that's okay. That's why I picked Mirrors. But I like that you've got you got this as your number one.
This record is frightening. Just the atmosphere that they create on this record, like it's chilling to me.
It's very cold. It's a very cold record.
It is. And again, as a kid, I mean, the lyrics, Joan Crawford. Well, there's not one bad song on this record.
No, not at all.
It's a classic, absolute classic.
Shout out again to Martin Birch.
Who produced this?
Martin Birch.
He did, yeah. So it's really different sounding to Cultösaurus though, right? The production.
Yeah. I don't know what the process was or if it's a different studio, but I also just think if you think about 1980 and he made Heaven and Hell and Cultösaurus, and those are kind of bright mid-rangey records, And then 81, he made this and Mob Rules, and they're just like bigger, fatter, like just heavy, man. And so it makes sense, you know.
Right.
What a year for him though, Jesus. And to make Iron Maiden Killers in between all that, and I think he did a White Snake record that year too. That's a lot of work.
What would it have been, Saints and Sinners?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive that's what it was.
Yeah. So this is my number one.
Yeah, perfect. And I love the OB on there too, man.
I'll try and find you one. I actually did see a MSG Assault Attack with OB yesterday. So if you're still in the market for one.
Absolutely.
Do you want to talk about the live albums? Have we got time?
I've got time, and I don't have one of them next to me, but I have the other two. Do you have a favorite live album by them?
Yeah, I guess I do. It's probably gonna be this one.
Oh, but look, I have the OB strip, and you don't.
Damn! How did that happen? Is that your favorite too?
Yeah, this one is my favorite, but it's close. I mean, this is the culmination, right, of the black and white era.
Yeah, and the artwork.
On Your Feet or On Your Knees is such a great title too. They have a lot of titles I like, but
I could do without Born to Be Wild, to be honest. But
I'm telling you, you got to hear the studio cut of it because it's so different. But the version of Subhuman on this is just incredible. It's way longer and it's way more moody, and it's really weird that they start the album with that.
Right.
Because they don't even. It's just he just like says like the Subhuman, and they play it, and then they introduce the band on the second song.
Right. Yeah. What about this one?
That's the one I don't have next to me.
Yeah.
I like that. It feels like an EP to me. It's so short.
It's too short. It's a single record, and there's like kick out the jams, and we've got to get out of this place. Like,
yeah, I can toss that.
I don't need 2 cover versions on a really short record. So.
How do you feel about this guy, though? Do you have this one?
Certainly do.
Oh, with that beautiful OB strip. Look at that ETL. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, all I can say is I'm wearing the tour shirt for it. The Veteran of the Psychic Wars on here is just as good as it gets, man. 10 minutes long or something like that. Of
course, with the Doors thing again, Roadhouse Blues with Robbie Krieger, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, it's a more commercial live album for sure.
Yeah.
And Albert's not on most of it, but it's a good selection. It's a good update of some of the classic songs.
Yeah, I mean, the track list is amazing.
And I mean, to me, you can't go wrong as a space enthusiast. You can't go wrong with this picture of all the boys.
Yeah.
Coming out of the flying saucer.
Yeah, amazing.
And then obviously, you got your psychedelic astronaut with the BOC.
Yeah.
There's nothing I love more, man.
Yeah. Lovely stuff.
Lovely stuff indeed.
Thanks, Chris. You've given me so much info.
I hope it wasn't too much dominance.
No. Not enough dominance.
Too much submission.
No submission.
Well, thank you for having me, man. Love the Analog Attack.
Let's do another one.
Yeah, anytime, man.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we talk about it for sure.
We'll talk about it. All right, I guess that wraps up today's episode. This is probably my favorite episode so far.
Thank you so much,
Chris. So until next time, stay healthy and stay clean. Thanks, Chris. See you later, man. Thanks a lot. I'm going to press that. See you, man.